Welcome to a new episode in our series Astrological Divination with a very special guest from Great Britain, Garry Phillipson, Dr. Garry Phillipson. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And we start with our copyright problems. There's a special site on our site, cosmology.fonabisw.de, and it's this subsite, Talk Today. And here's the copyright. I have only the right to publish the conversation uncut and unedited on freely accessible video platforms, no paywalls, and on my homepages, our guest, Dr. Garry Phillipson, has the right to shorten, edit, or add as he wishes, and to publish it on his websites and video platforms according to his liking. Is that okay with you?
That's absolutely great, yes.
Okay, and here is something we want to talk first. This is Astrology in the Year Zero, second edition of 2026. And there is the publisher site, which is Sophia Press. Where is this? Somewhere it should be saying, well, it's published. Okay, I have it here. It's published by Sophia Centre Press. First question, what is Sophia Centre Press?
Well, that's a relatively easy one. The Sophia Centre Press is part of the Sophia Centre, which is the organization set up to promote the study of astrology in academia.
Okay, and then let's dive into the book itself. And I make this larger, if it's possible. Let me see whether this works. Yeah, it works. Okay, now we have table of contents, and we have the chapter 1, and I will have a question to that. This book's method and structure. And in that chapter, on the end of that chapter, anyone interested in, it's on page 2, anyone interested in pursuing any of the issues raised in this book will find biographical details of its contributors, relevant organizations, suggestions for further reading, and so on at the website astrozero.co.uk. Now let's have a look at that homepage of yours, because I couldn't find what you are promising here. It's this one. Did that
Yes.
change? Did you delete those informations?
The biographical information used to be in the book itself, and I need to update the website to
Okay.
include all that information because the decision was that with the web being so ubiquitous nowadays, we didn't need to take up so much space with the individual biographies and charts of the contributors.
Okay, the basis for the first and second edition of the book, with the title Astrology in the Year Zero, is grounded on 33 interviews. And if I wanted to read all the interviews in full length, I couldn't, right?
You can read nearly all of them.
Where are they?
Many of them are on SkyScript. Are you familiar with the SkyScript site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Okay, let's find out where on SkyScript they are, because I have some SkyScript interviews. Here is SkyScript. Okay, there is the SkyScript interview with yourself. Now, where on this site would I find the other interviews?
If you were to look for, say, John Frawley, if you were to do a search on SkyScript for John Frawley, I believe you would find the interview with him.
Oh,
there,
you mean
example.
I have to use the search routine?
Yes, there is.
There is no search routine. Okay, that's okay. Let's go back here. I have here a skyscraper with a lot of information. Professional astrology. There's a lot here. There
Mm.
are some interviews here. An interview. Oh, you mean we would find it probably here? Okay, interview with Deborah Holding, and it was, but it's March 2009. Your 33 interviews were done between 1996 and 2000. And
Yes.
here's a later interview. Okay, I leave it to the viewers because it takes too much time. But basically, coming back to my original question, why didn't you publish a thick book with all the interview texts on Book on Demand, which doesn't cost you anything? Or about 25 euros for the ESPN.
Um, well, that wasn't sort of so well known in 2000 when
Oh, I
the
agree.
book first came out.
I'm talking about 2026.
Yeah.
No
In
exit for you that Book on Demand wasn't so fruitful.
and I mean, it's a possibility now. It's something. In fact,
It's not a possibility. It's the easiest thing you ever can ever do. If you send me all the PDFs in one PDF, okay, on DIN A4, which is the large volume, it takes me 15 minutes to have it published worldwide.
yeah, yeah.
Why don't you
Um,
do it? Why don't you do it?
well, this is something I'll think about now, and I'm not saying that by
Oh, okay.
way of
Okay.
of kind of dismissing it. It is a good idea.
Because
What's on my
what I was frustrated with was
mm,
in this book, you have an approach not presenting the interviewees, but their thoughts in context of a theme. So you have chapters. We come to the chapters now.
yes.
And if somebody like me wants to read the full thing of, well, Robert Hand is on my special site to read. So let's go back to the content, which was here. Okay, chapter 2, getting interested, and it has subchapters. Could you elaborate on chapter 2?
Okay. Let me just add a couple of things on the issue of the full interviews first, if I may.
Oh yeah,
Um,
okay.
One is that when the book came out, there was an option for people to get in touch with me and order a CD copy of all the interviews. And
Okay.
I think I had two requests for the CD with all the interviews on. So, on that basis, it didn't seem like it was a very popular thing.
Oh,
Not,
just as a second. I'm not
mm,
talking about sales and profits. I'm talking about to document a very culturally important situation, having 33 astrologers talking about what they think, and I don't care if you sell it one, because
yeah,
the costs on your side is 15 minutes to upload it on BOD Norderstedt or in England, a comparable institution. And it costs you on BOD Norderstedt for the whole thing, classical project, 30 euros. So the only argument is I don't want to invest 30 euros. You can't really use that argument, can you?
that it's not an argument I would want to make.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, okay.
The other thing that's on my mind is that I recently had a conversation with Nick Campion, actually quite similar to the
Oh,
one
okay.
we're having
Yeah.
here. And he said, it would be good to have all of these interviews in the public domain. So I need to check with Nick if and how that's going to happen.
Well, the
But
problem is if you're going by Nick, he wants to publish it on Sophia Centre Press. And that is a problem as well, because there it won't be available for all eternity. Whereas if you put it on Book on Demand, on one of those Book of Demand, you could do it on BOD Norderstedt. I have some books on BOD Norderstedt. As long as BOD Norderstedt doesn't go bankrupt, it will be on the internet for the rest of eternity. Whereas if you publish it on Sophia, this book depends on how long Sophia Centre Press exists, and we know Nick Campion is more of our age. We might be older than him. I'm the oldest of our three. I'm 49, you are 54, and he's a little bit younger, I believe. But the risk of Sophia Centre Press is it depends very much on Jens Arden himself and the Sophia Centre program. And if that disappears, for what reason ever, the whole thing would go into the nirvana. Whereas if you had it in a book on demand, that would be a different story. So that's your problem. That's not my problem. I stop here. Okay, chapter 2. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, chapter 2 is mm, around the question of how people got into astrology in the first place, what inspired them to take it up as something to investigate. And I should fill in the broader context as well here, which is that I started writing the book in the first place because I had questions about what is astrology, what is the best way to practice it, what uses do people make of it, how should I best pursue my investigation and practice of astrology? And so in chapter 2, the natural place to begin seemed to be with what it was that got people interested in astrology in the first place. And a good number of people talked about it feeling natural, about it feeling as though it was a language that they already knew.
Talking about your practice, today we have Mercury stationary getting retrograde. How would you talk about Mercury retrograde in the context of our interview?
Interesting. And it's in opposition to my moon, natal moon.
Well, this is my radix. This is my birth radix.
Sorry. Yeah,
that is my
yeah.
second question. Okay, I'll take that off for confusion. Just the situation. We do a interview on the 29th of June, and on today, Mercury gets stationary and gets retrograde afterwards. How would you, in your practice, talk about this situation if you are asked, what will that do to the talk we both are doing?
It's not something, to be honest, I would probably pay much attention to.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Some people do, some don't. But now we have something special. Your sun is on my sun because I'm 13th of December, you are 11th of December. Your moon is on my Uranus and on quincunx my ascendant in opposition to my Mercury and in quincunx to my Jupiter Venus. So there is some click points between the two of us. Would you agree?
Yes, indeed.
Would you delineate them?
Uh,
What do you mean for me? That's the question.
Okay. Interesting question. Not one I feel I can do justice to off the top of my head.
Well, it's unfair. I agree. It's unfair to ask you that.
And I mean, I should add really that although I have worked as a consultant astrologer at times in my life, I don't regard myself as a practicing astrologer in many ways these days.
We are doing the same thing. I'm a theoretical astrologer, and you are more or less the same.
There you go. Maybe that's that's a point of commonality. Yeah,
Sure is, yes.
and I don't know about you, but it seems to me that this is the direction in which the powers behind life have steered me. You know, because I spent a long time trying to establish a practice as a consultant astrologer, and it was always the questions about what is astrology, how does it work, what does it tell us about the world in which we live that seemed to loom larger. And not long after I moved to Bradford-on-Avon, where I live now, the Sophia Centre started operations in Bath Spa University, which is only about 10 miles away. So I was kind of involved in that from the get-go. And the option of pursuing a PhD came up there. Oh, there you go.
So this is Bradford-on-Avon here, and
Yeah,
that's where you're living,
yeah.
and that's close to Wales, where Lampeter University is, which
Well,
is on the other side, more or less. Here somewhere. Here's Lampeter,
yeah.
and
But when the Sophia Centre first started, it was at Bath Spa University, so
yes,
in just outside.
we come
Yeah,
back to all that when we talk about your biography. But there was an interesting aspect in one of those interviews I'm using today. And you said when you were talking with skeptics in your interviews, it damaged your ability to delineate as if you had not spoken with them. Do I remember that right? Could you elaborate why the talking and the confrontation or the situation with a skeptic like one name is Dean, I believe,
yeah, Jeffrey Dean, yes.
Jeffrey Dean, and another was David Hamblin. And when you talked to them, you made the experience, which was rather interesting to me, that the situation, the energy flow between two people, one skeptic and one convinced astrologer like you. So you are a convinced astrologer still today. So the situation, the energy situation between the skeptic and the astrologer is no good idea for the astrology to delineate afterwards, shortly after the interview, because that energy stays. Let me put it this way: the black magic of the skeptic stays longer than good for you. How do you see that?
uh, I think it's I think confidence is a very important factor for an astrologer. Um, and it's a subjective observation from talking to a lot of astrologers that the ones who do really good work are confident about their practice. Now, clearly, it can work both ways. If your practice is very successful and you're hitting the nail on the head with each reading, then you will be confident. But I think it works the other way as well. That the what we bring to a reading in ourselves also conditions the quality of the reading.
That is too much scientific answer for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very plausible answer if you go by academic standards of psychology, sociology, and so on. But if you integrate spirituality and the existence of non-material entities, there's more to that question than you just gave an answer to. I put it this way: the black magic of the skeptics disturbs your approach. If there is magic involved, could it be that the skeptical approach, which is an energy which is contra astrology, which is daimonic against the good entities, angels, archangels, and seraphims of astrology, or the anima mundi, and those good energies don't like what you're doing, and they get back, well, try again without us. Like this. How do you see this approach of mine, which is Neoplatonic? We come back to your own cosmology later in the talk. How would you see my approach in that book context? That the interviews with the skeptics were the most difficult for yourself because they were not really able to try to understand your own position when they were talking with you.
Interesting. I wouldn't want to characterize the position of the skeptics as a black magical one, only because that, to my mind at least, implies a kind of wicked intent on their part.
Oh,
And
I would agree that they don't have to be black magicians themselves. The black magic entities are very happy to use them without them knowing it.
mm, Yeah, in that case, I think that's um, it's a serving suggestion, if I
Yeah,
can
okay.
put it this way.
Yeah, okay.
Given that we aren't we aren't fully cognizant of everything that is happening in the more than human worlds. Um,
Okay, so let's get back to the book and the content of the books. Chapter 3, Sun Sign Astrology. Can you elaborate?
it seemed like a good idea to talk about sun sign astrology, partly because I was hoping that the book would sell well, and sun sign astrology would appeal to people, but also it was a bit of a hot potato at the time in astrological circles. There were
Yes.
people like Dennis Elwell, for example, was saying that sun sign astrologers were sort of bringing the practice of astrology into disrepute, and were sort of I can't remember exactly how I put it, but not behaving in a karmically efficient way.
What's your own position on sun sign astrology? Many very good astrologers participate. Nick Campion is one of them who participated in writing for newspapers.
Mm,
What's your personal approach? For example, if we look at the present situation, Pluto in Aquarius on 4 degrees and Saturn on 4 degrees in Aries and Uranus on 4 degrees on Gemini, that is the astrological weather forecast, and it means something. And if you look at transits like that and use it for writing a sun sign column, there is something to it that there's also some truth in that art sort of writing. Would you agree or would you disagree?
I would agree. Yes, I think sun sign work is actually it's surprisingly hard work in my experience. I wrote a sun sign column for a local magazine, and only for a year because it was taking up so much time.
It is
Um,
difficult. It is difficult to do it, but it is
yes,
very rewarding because you're diving into the mundane transits and correlating them to certain degree areas of people's horoscopes.
yeah, yeah. And I think the way most people take sun sign work, it's useful. It gives them a moment to reflect on their lives, and they take what makes sense to them and forget about what doesn't make sense to them. I think we should also acknowledge that it can be problematic. You get people who become afraid to step outside their front door
Yes.
until they've consulted astrology, and that is a kind of deterministic hell state, I
That
believe.
that is one reason that the Rosicrucian order, Lectorium Rosicrucianum, which did astrology in the 30s and 40s, forbid astrology for their pupils because of that situation that the disciples of the Rosicrucian order did astrology horoscopes every day, and exactly with what you just mentioned.
Mm,
So this is a real danger, that's true. Now,
yeah.
chapter 4. How about that?
Okay, actually, let me just add something that comes to mind. The late Lee Lehman, in her interview, when I asked her about sun sign astrology, said, well, we have science and we have science fiction, and sun sign work is astrology fiction. And she, not meaning it in the sense of something that's not true at all, but in the sense of something that's an extrapolation from a few factors.
Okay, I had two interviews with Lee Lehman, which I recommend on my channels, and
Oh yeah,
we go back to your. By the way, did you look me up before we talk today?
a tiny bit, yeah.
A tiny bit, which is probably wise. Okay, chapter 4. Oh, how about that?
Yeah. Now that. there's probably more of a focus on business and financial astrology than you might expect. And this probably goes back to the fact that the whole idea of the book started with Christine Skinner. I was doing a class with Christine and asked if I could interview her. And at some point during the interview, she said that it would. She thought there was a book in this, you know, of interviewing astrologers, and her speciality is the world of business astrology, and so there's quite a lot of that in this book.
Did you did you ever try it out yourself to get some to gain some money with the methods of the financial astrology?
Not with financial astrology. I have tried with betting on football matches using John Frawley's
Oh,
method.
and
Um,
did you have the same disappointment he had?
yes,
Okay.
I'm afraid so. I mean, it was looking um, so good, you know, from the work he was doing at a certain point. But he tells the story in the book of how it all started to collapse.
If I would be the seraphim for astrology in the life of Garry Phillipson or Volker Schendel, and he would try to use astrology to gain profit, I would say, go ahead without my help. You'll see where you get. Would you agree on that same analogy that the powers behind the material world don't allow to use astrology, which is in history a sacred craft, for profit gaining in materialistic worlds?
Yes, yeah, I do believe that, and I think that's very important.
And
And this is
in that context, you are familiar with the book of Geoffrey Cornelius, The Moment of Astrology. We talk about it later in the talk today. And he refers to William Lilly, and William Lilly, when he was doing Auri astrology, he was um, he was talking about the old tradition that you had to do a prayer before you start questioning anything. You had to cleanse yourself, like in the Oracle of Delphi. The people who wanted to ask the Sibyl about something, they had to stay there to clean themselves, to do prayers and light candles and all that stuff. And then after a lot of preparatory time, they were allowed to enter the place where the Sibyl was sitting over the Apollo deity constellation. Would you think that is still today a good idea to think about the magical part of astrology before starting doing it? Is that something you would apply to yourself?
that would work for me for sure. Yes, I think I'm wary of generalizing about this because I think different people have different paths, different ways of thinking.
Well,
But I,
the tradition is not compromising in that aspect. The tradition since the last 33,000 years is very clear on that. If you
mm,
don't do the prayer, the hour will go wrong. You won't get an answer to your already question. If you go by William Lilly, he's clear about that. There's
mm,
no compromise there by William Lilly or his older traditional sources. So basically, we are talking about modern horary astrologers who sometimes don't even know this tradition.
yeah, my point would be that there are different ways in. One needs sincerity, earnestness, and perhaps one could even say love
Yes,
for the subject and for the cosmos.
and
Um, but different people can approach this in different ways, and I wouldn't want to exclude the possibility that somebody who thought that who didn't believe in spirits at all could have an approach within themselves that still arrived at the same place through a kind of humanistic orientation.
so let me narrow the question. when you go into tarot business, divination with the tarot cards, there is an experience which is valid basically all the time. If a journalist not telling the tarot reader that he is a journalist to disprove tarot reading, there's not one anecdote that tarot worked when a journalist tried to do that. Tarot does not work if you want to disprove it. And sort of the same thing is valid for if you want to disprove horary astrology. It doesn't work because the powers behind it don't allow this approach.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it depends on the client as well as the astrologer for
Yes,
sure.
yes. Okay, back to your book. Chapter 5, Personal Work. Elaborate.
Well, this in this chapter, I'm trying to introduce the reader to the what actually is involved in the reading of a natal chart. Moving on from sun sign astrology to explain that there's more to astrology than this, and here is what happens when astrologers see a client typically.
Okay. Chapter 6.
Uh, a, a discussion of the scope of astrology to aid with health issues, and uh, some test cases. Graham Tobin, if memory serves, features quite strongly in that chapter.
And in this context, we are talking about astrological medicine,
Yeah.
which is quite important in the Renaissance and before. How is your approach generally to the tradition of Renaissance astrological medicine and before, and the possibility to use it today? Lee Lehman, for example, created a course with the Traditional School of Astrology with Deborah Holding on astrological medicine. How is your personal view of that? This tradition integrates a lot of Paracelsus. How do you personally see the possibility to know enough to use astrology in medicine context of today?
I've personally never really engaged with medical astrology, so um, I'm quite a limited source on this front.
Okay, that's okay.
I,
Could
you
have
know, I
could have been
my
different. You could have been different. You could have read a lot of books. You could have read Culpeper and all those famous people, and you could have. But you didn't do that. So we go back. We go on to chapter 7. Chapter 7.
uh, okay. I'm just having to remember these
Oh, that's
chapters
okay.
as we
Yeah,
come
yeah,
along.
yeah,
So hence
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking for a
No,
moment.
no problem.
Um, yeah, this one's a bit of a miscellaneous chapter in that it's pulling together different threads, as you can see. There's astrogeography, or astrolocality, um, and the astrology of disaster. That is going to be about Dennis Elwell's predictions of a ferry sinking, which sort of propelled astrology
Yeah.
into the newspapers in the UK.
The first line was psychotherapy and psychology, and that refers to Carl Gustav Jung, and then we have Stan Grof and Richard Tarnas. How well informed are you about the work of Stan Grof combined with Richard Tarnas on the research on non-ordinary state of consciousness? Is that something you are familiar with, or is that something you left aside in your biography up to date?
Um, I mean, non-ordinary experiences intrigue me, absolutely, and I've read a bit of Stan Grof,
Okay.
and
So for the viewers, why I'm asking this, There is research by Stanislav Grof coming from Czechoslovakia and then moving to the United States. And he met Richard Harness in Esalen, where Stan Grof was the leading researcher. And Stan Grof was to do a PhD dissertation in Esalen, and he was the program director there. And Stan Grof gave his clients LSD, and later, when it was forbidden, other psycho drugs, which were allowed. And the problem for Stan Grof and Richard Tarnas was that they couldn't prognosticate what the client would experience when they were taking these drugs. Up till a day when an astrologer came around and said, why don't you look at the transits for this person and do a prognostication what he will experience when he takes the drugs? And the interesting thing is transit works. So they had a highly disputed approach with these special drugs, which was not accepted by the mainstream medicine and psychology. And then they had the astrology, another wretched subject, and both together, they were successful to say in advance what he will experience. This is very interesting, and we come back to this book later in our talk when we talk about Stan Grof's Unbound Psyche. But now we go back to your book, which is chapter 8. Doubt in astrology. Religion and astrology. There is a PhD dissertation. No, it's not a PhD. It's a Habilitationsschrift, and we talk about it later, by Gustav Adolf Schöner from Hanover. He talks about the continuity and discontinuity in religious science with astrology, and this has something to do with religion and astrology. And the problem we will talk later in this talk when we go into your opinion, because this book is not about your opinion, this book is about other people you were interviewing. So talk about this chapter.
In a way, this chapter is attempting to dovetail with what comes next. So chapters 9 and 10 are the two chapters devoted to the interview with the skeptics. And in chapter 8, if memory serves at least, I'm kind of preparing the ground for this by looking at some questions about the nature of astrology. So, okay, the natural and judicial distinction, for example.
And chapter 9 and 10 are with the skeptics. I don't talk about skeptics. I refuse to do that. I will ask you something about my horoscope, but I can't do that. And let's do it right away. I am not capable to do what you were able to do. You were able to talk with people who were skeptics and who were research in astrology has to fulfill the scientific methodology. Well, those people didn't know the work of Paul Feyerabend, obviously. But if you look at my horoscope, can you explain to me what in my horoscope prohibits me to be able to do what you are able to do? Because I'm not able, not at all able, not a second able to talk with any skeptics of the people in your book. I would deny even to talk with them over a cup of coffee because I don't want to. I'm fanatical opposed to talk with skeptics. Do you see where this comes from, my horoscope? Because you have it otherwise. In your horoscope, you are able to do it. You are one of those very good people who can talk with everybody. I can't. What is it? Is it my Saturnian Sun connection and the reception of Mercury and Saturn? Would you say so? Would you say it might be that the very heavy connection with Mercury and Saturn and then a quartile to my Sun, that Volker Schendel is, his horoscope tells all. His ascendant is on the Dodecatemory of Steinbock. What is Steinbock in English? Capricorn. So I have a lot of Saturn in my horoscope, and it's strange. I'm really psychologically unable to do any talk with any skeptic. Fanatically not. Why are you able to do that?
I think I can speak better to why I'm able to do it.
Yes.
And I think Libra ascendant, we mustn't
Yeah.
overlook that. But I think very importantly, my moon is ridiculously strong in my chart.
And
Um,
that is on Cancer.
yes, it's in Cancer,
And the
so
beginning
and it's
degrees of Cancer, very strong Cancer. Yeah.
yep, and it's close to the midheaven, and it's the final dispositor of the chart.
And that's why you are able to do something I can't. Okay. So,
And I think it's and that I've this is something I've been pondering in the last few months, really. That um, I'm I have few certainties. You know, I'm much questions are more alive to me than
yeah, yeah.
assertions of fact, which you know is in many ways a bit of a nuisance. But I think it does mean that I have I'm able to talk to people because I don't um, at at my heart I don't have the certainty that they're wrong. You know, I can see their perspective whilst I'm with them, even though you know in the case of the skeptics, for example, I never um, bought into their worldview.
Okay.
Um, this quality of mine, by the way, I was talking to the astrologer Bernard Eccles once, and
Okay.
he, I think he kind of hit on something where he said to me, "You have a weird quality, man. It's as though there's nobody there."
Okay. Well.
And
Okay.
on another occasion, he introduced me to somebody and said something along the lines of, "Don't let this guy interview you. He draws things out of you that you don't want to say."
Okay. What I recommend to the viewers is the afterword, which is very interesting to read.
Mm,
And that is what I wanted to talk about this book. This book, it's available on Sophia Centre Press, and they don't sell it themselves. I believe you have to go by Amazon or your local bookshop. Is that right?
that's right. Yes, the link just takes you to Amazon. So
Okay. Now we go to the second book, which is from you, which is, let me find that. It's your PhD dissertation, and it's somewhere here. Okay, interview, conversation. By the way, I don't like this interview you had with this guy here, but I put it there because this is the only interview on YouTube with you, is it right?
that is right, I think. Yes. Um,
How did that come about that nobody wants to talk to you?
well, in a way, I'm not a very good interviewee. I think I'm, you know, as per our conversation just now, I'm more of a natural interviewer.
No, you're
Um,
not. You're a perfect interviewee.
no, well, thank you.
This is perfect. I ask questions and you answer them very good. You don't ask me anything, basically. This is the first time for you that you have this situation that your partner in the talk, you don't ask him anything because he didn't ask me anything in the first 50 minutes. I
Mm,
only asked you things. So you are a perfect interviewer. This couldn't be the reason. Uh, well, I'm glad to be the monopoly on Garry Phillipson talking to Garry because I will be. This will be the only video with you about you, and not about the other guy. Okay, now let's go to your dissertation. Now this is this one. It's on the internet.
yeah,
Uh, it is here. Astrology and Truth. It's 383 pages, and it's very academic. There's only one question. In the conclusion, in chapter 7:12, the conclusion about William James, the philosopher you will basically put at the end as the the good one. The others are interesting, but this is the good one. This is the good stuff. William James is the good stuff. First question, who was or does he still live?
William James? No, he died in about 1915.
How did you come about William James? Who you were studying philosophy? Well, let's start with a little bit of your biography because that will be the next chapter of this talk. Your biography, you did study philosophy and you had your certain experiences with your professors, which were not always very good. They were dumber than dumb and assholes sometimes. They didn't really know what they were talking about, basically. And they were very materialistic in some aspects, as you talked someplace else.
Mm.
How did you get a hold of William James? Was it during your studies for your philosophy degree or later?
It was later. I wish I'd read William James when I was doing my first degree, because he's a real human being. You know, he writes as somebody who is grappling with real questions about his own life rather than the rather abstract, abstruse approach that you find with many philosophers.
When I read well, I didn't read the whole PhD dissertation. I skipped all the parts which I'm not interested in because William James was intriguing. I like his philosophy. And he reminded me of another guy in the philosophy of sciences, the hard sciences. I did some studies with Houning and Hühne in Hanover about his systematicity theory, 12 semesters. And in there, I got to know Thomas Kuhn and Paul Feyerabend.
Mm.
And William James reminded me of Paul Feyerabend. Everything goes.
Yeah.
William James, same thing. Everything goes as long as it's practical. And this is Feyerabend pure, but Feyerabend was the older one. James is later. Do you think Feyerabend plagiarized William James?
I would imagine
Everything goes as long as it's practical.
I would imagine that Feyerabend would have been aware of William James's work, and
Okay.
yeah.
So we can speculate that he just took James and then put his name on top of it. Well, Feyerabend is very famous, and not knowing William James, he was my philosopher till today. Now I have to say William James hyphen Paul Feyerabend are good guys, and the rest is rubbish. Okay.
If I could sort of explain the structure of the thesis a little bit.
Sure.
What I wanted to do when I set out was to explore explore the philosophy of William James as it applied to astrology, and specifically the fact that astrology works, you know, and that this is overlooked by people when they talk about astrology. And when I was sort of talking to professors about my plan, one of them said, well, if you're going to talk about James and his pragmatic theory of truth, then really you should cover the three major theories of truth. So you need to cover the correspondence theory of truth and the coherence theory of truth as well. And I felt ambiguous about this because I could see fairly quickly that the other two theories were not. It was going to be a bit of an exercise of jumping through hoops in order to satisfy academia. But this is the way you have to play the academic game. So I did this. But you're absolutely right that the two major chapters at the end, chapters 6 and 7, are where all the good stuff is, really, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. And I agree I tried myself on a PhD dissertation and I failed miserably, non-rite, Astrology and Recht, but you can buy the book because I published it anyway. It was very interesting. I was a doctorand, we call it in Germany. I was working on the PhD dissertation for 12 semesters, 6 years, and I had the right to enter every lecture and every seminar on the whole University of Hanover, Leibniz University of Hanover, and that was very good. And then I produced this book And I must confess, I didn't invest as much time as you did we talk about the process of your PhD decision. That was really hard work. I was more a little bit like that, you know. I invest 3 months. I did invest 3 months full time. And then my professors might have snuffed it, not enough work involved. And my theory was a little bit provocative. And I published the book before I started the procedure, so that's not very well not very well accepted by your professors if you publish your PhD dissertation before they get to talk about it, things like that. But anyways, I recommend my book still, Astrology and Recht. It's published on Book on Demand in Germany, Biot in Norderstedt, and that's that. Now, have we talked about enough about your PhD dissertation?
Let's see. I think I would like to think that it has performed a service for astrology in that when skeptics dismiss astrology, they usually do so on the basis that um, there is no argument in its favor that holds up, but they are assuming certain things. They're assuming things about the nature of the world, which preempt the possibility of something like astrology being viable. So what I was trying to do was to drag out into the light the philosophical assumptions, prejudices even, that inform the skeptical position. And
for our viewers, I make it simple. Skeptics are materialistic idiots, and that's why they can't talk about astrology. let's you don't have to comment on that. Okay. Now we have the two books of yourself, and now we go into some interviews. I will use these two interviews for my following questions. And this one is on SkyScript. This was Darian Gunsberg, and this was on Stellar Magazine. And we have not with Melania Trump, but on page 17, there is the interview. So, and now we leave the computer. I start with the Gunsberg, which was published on March 12, 2004. First question. I use the same question, and you will probably answer different because it's a video, it's a different situation. By the way, was this interview done in person or by email with Gunsberg?
that was done in person, yeah.
Oh, very good.
I think in my flat here in Brentford-on-Avon, if
I think so, yeah.
serves.
So first question, tell us about yourself and how you came to astrology. Easy for me.
Yeah. Well, probably where I should begin is that I grew up in a family of spiritualists. My grandfather was a trance medium, and I was introduced to this at a relatively young age, maybe 12, 13, something like this. So from quite an early age, I had this. I was faced with the fact of there being more to life than the material world. You know, there were phenomena that were undoubtable that I witnessed that convinced me completely, and so I grew up with this vague idea that somehow this was what my life was going to be about, this fact of there being, yeah.
You had experiences. In this interview, it's the exact same answer. She didn't ask deeper. I will ask deeper. What did you experience? Why was it so convincing? Have you some anecdotes available? What you really experienced in this spiritual? It's the technical term is spiritism. Spiritism in English, I believe. It's this movement which started when Neptune was discovered in the 1840s, a couple of decades. Spiritism, and Helena Blavatsky was a spiritist as well. do you have a general opinion of this movement? And many reports of those days are very interesting. And you must have experienced something in modern times. This was in the 60s, no, 70s, when you were 54, 64, 60, 68, something, 68,
Mm,
1970 and onwards. You were in this situation in your private household. Your father was the medium,
mm.
and he was not a laughing stock. He was serious. What did you experience in those days with spirits?
I have virtually no psychic ability myself. I should say
Yeah,
that
yeah, okay,
the things that convinced me were there were sort of odd phenomena such as on the evening when we had the séance, the doorbell would ring and there would be nobody there, and there would be knockings at the door and nobody there. There was this kind of thing, and then also I was very keen on Formula One in those days. I still am, in fact. And drivers kept dying, and so I would ask after them, and they would come to the group, and we would talk about Formula One, and this was quite a convincing thing to me. There was one occasion where they performed a healing on my father, and there was just a sense of power in the room, which I could not kind of really describe in any other way. But that seemed like a very real thing again.
okay. This borders on something Carl Gustav Jung is famous for, which is his Red Book, published in 2009, long after he died. Story of the Red Book can be read on the internet. Have you read the Red Book of Carl Gustav Jung?
Not yet. It's on my list. Yeah.
You should do that because
Mm.
that borders. This is very. I will talk. I will do a talk with Becca Tarnas on the 8th of July, and we will talk about Red Book as well, because her PhD dissertation is about the two Red Books, the Red Book of Carl Gustav Jung and the Red Book of G.R.R. Tolkien, and it might be an interesting talk on the 8th
Mm.
of July. Okay, next question. No, back to the first question because we stopped there. Tell us about yourself and how you came to astrology after you had this spiritist experience.
Um, well, I went to university.
Why did you go to the university?
I was very miserable at home and I didn't know what else to do, essentially.
Okay, so you didn't want to do a vocational profession like plumber or electrician or computer programmer or something like that.
No, I didn't want to do that. And actually, in towards the end of my time at school, I was starting to emerge as a very promising student in history and
Ah, okay.
English, having been a very middling sort of student for most of the time. And this was really because I could never pay attention in class. And it was only when I was able to go off with books and study under my own steam that
Okay.
I became any good.
Where did you go to high school?
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Okay. You were born there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about your family, not your grandfather, but your parents? Anything to tell, any interesting background of your parents, artists, musicians, or just normal people? He was working as a clerk and your mother was a teacher. How about your parents?
Um, quite normal people. My father was a Capricorn, very earthy. And as I have no earth, we
Quite,
didn't
quite a,
really understand one
quite a
another.
contrast to your own horoscope. Yeah.
Yeah. And he worked as a printer. Um,
Okay,
and,
okay.
and my mother worked as a secretary.
Shows she wasn't a housewife. She was working and raising you
Yeah.
in Bournemouth.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, in school, as you said, and then you have the certificate. How is it in England? In Germany, it's the high school diploma is Abitur, but you don't use this term Abitur or Lizenziat or Matura. How do you call your final certificate when you leave high school in England?
A levels.
Oh, A level, and that is the level you need to go to university.
Yeah,
Now you are in Bournemouth. The world is open. You could study in Germany without any fees. You could study in America with a lot of costs. You could study in Great Britain with a little bit of costs, not so much as a little bit more than in Germany. You went to an English university.
I did. Yeah.
Which one?
The one in Norwich, University of East Anglia.
Oh,
And this,
I think Sue Ward studied there in this East Anglia University. Okay, Norwich. Why Norwich, not Oxford, Cambridge, or Exeter, or whatever?
well, the spirits come back here in a way. The When I was studying for my A levels, I got a message from the spirits saying that I was going to do very well and I would get into university. And that that was almost like a death blow to my studies because I then felt this immense sense of futility. You know, why am I studying when I'm going to do very well anyway? And I got thoroughly bored with the whole thing, which is a tendency. I think Mercury, Sun in Sag in the third house may have something to do with this. And I did really badly in the exams. So, whereas there had been talk of me going to Oxford, staying on another year at school and
Yes, yes.
applying to Oxford, all of a sudden I was scrabbling around to see if I could get into any university through what's called the clearing process.
Yes, yes.
And so Norwich was the one I got into. Um, and, you know, that does seem, in hindsight, of course, I don't know how I would have fared had I gone to Oxford, but the Norwich connection did seem quite um, destiny laden, I guess, because it was there, amongst other things, that I met my friend Robert Mann, who then went on to become a teacher at a Buddhist center where I
Interesting.
became
And
involved.
it protected you from the Oxford approach, which is a materialistic scientific approach.
It would have been a nightmare. Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes. If I'd succeeded in studying in the Oxford way, I would not have been a happy bunny.
Okay. Now, in this Norwich University, you still have to decide courses you, what majors and minors you would register for. You did philosophy. Why not history as you intended to?
I started off intending to major in history, and I did some modules, but I was increasingly drawn towards the promise of philosophy, and a couple of the courses I did fulfilled that promise, but as you have already alluded to, quite a few were disappointing.
Which courses were good for you in
Um,
philosophy?
there was one in aesthetics that I did with Michael McGee.
Okay.
Um, and I have a story about him and the spirits, actually, if that
Oh,
would be
okay.
of interest.
Oh, sure.
Um, um, he came to have a cup of tea in my room one day, and he asked a question about why I'd got all these books by mediums, and so I explained the family background,
Yes.
and he said, "Okay, well that's very interesting, but why would you think that being dead would make you wise?" And this was a question I hadn't considered before, and I thought it was very interesting. And so I asked him how he would define wisdom, and he started talking about Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti. Um,
The head of the Order of the Star of the East, I believe, which was the reason why Rudolf Steiner left the Theosophical Society. Okay.
yeah, and Krishnamurti subsequently left as well, of course,
Yes, okay, yeah.
declaring that truth is a pathless land. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so that sort of broadened my horizons, if you like, and that's
In
what I
in
was hoping.
in philosophy, my wife studied philosophy in Hanover, in Leibniz University, Hanover. and they could choose courses from the broad spectrum of philosophy of the last 5,000 years. Which one did you choose beside this aesthetic course? Did you study Plato?
No, no, it was there wasn't.
I just asked. Plato, no. Plotinus?
No, there was very little ancient astrology going around. It
No, no, not
was
astrology, philosophy.
sorry, philosophy. Yeah,
So
um, it,
no, okay, no Plato, no Plotinus, no Porphyrius, no Proclus, no Iamblichus. Nothing of
that's
that.
right. Yeah, it was Kant, Hume, Locke.
Okay, the other people which I do not really take seriously. Uh, well, I was studying philosophy in my 12 semesters of doing this doctorate.
Mm,
Um, I found Kant interesting. Interesting story on my side.
mm.
I wanted to study Kant in detail for a full week at a cloister, a monastery at the Donau. I forgot the name. There was a Catholic opportunity to study Kant with the Catholic Church. And on the second day, the weather got so heavy rain that the river got up, and my car was going to sink in the water, so I went home straight. So no Kant with the Catholic Church for me. Interesting story. But that was really interesting because I didn't know about the weather before, and the weather came out of nowhere. And the chief of the cloister of the monastery said, "You have to move your cars, and probably tomorrow the cafeteria will be underwater and something like that." It was really heavy.
Yeah,
So back to your studies, major in philosophy. You got your what was the minor?
history.
History. Okay,
Yeah.
philosophy and history. Something else? A third minor? Second
No,
one. Okay.
philosophy and history.
So after 4 years, you finished.
Three.
What 3 years? Was that a bachelor or a master?
That's a bachelor.
That was a bachelor. You decided against the master, or you no
Uh,
master study?
I thought about doing a master's, and I got as far as looking at religious studies at
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
Lancaster University, where I would have been studying with oh, what's the guy's name?
It's no problem. No.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a very well known theologian who was based there, but you know the family couldn't afford it, and I
Your
was
parents had to subsidize your studies.
yes,
No
yeah.
state grant.
State subsidy, but they still had to pay,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
So
maybe.
you left university, and before we leave university, you met your friend for the rest of your life. What was his name? The Buddhist man?
Oh, Robert Mann.
Robert Mann. How did you meet him?
Um, we had a shared love of the music of Van der Graaf Generator and Peter Hamel,
Okay.
and that was the initial point of contact. And then we found that we had a shared interest in a lot of other things as well, you know, religion, sort of the meaning of life, and
And
other music.
when you met him when you first met him, you had a certain worldview, religious worldview, cosmological worldview. What was your worldview and what was his worldview when you met the first time?
Uh, kind of ill-defined theosophy, I guess.
Okay.
You would say, you know, we sort of felt that Eastern religion and philosophy was important in some way that we couldn't as yet define.
Did you ever dabble with anthroposophy of Rudolf Steiner? Any connection with you personally with that?
No,
No, okay.
nothing to
Okay,
speak.
Theosophy, Blavatsky, the Adyar Center in Adyar, and he was this on the same interest, or had he already been more settled in Buddhism?
No, no, we were both sort of exploring um,
Okay,
different options at that point.
and what happened then between the two of you?
Um, I mean, an important point that I should probably bring out is that at some point I borrowed a friend's copy of The Occult by Colin Wilson, and
Okay, for the
this was like
viewers. For the viewers who have no idea what we are talking about, there is a film list. This is my film list, which I use for this as well. This is the film list, Garry Phillipson, with 1 year, because that's the only one existing, and then the rest is Colin Wilson. And the viewers who want to know about the fame of Colin Wilson, who was famous for his Outsider book in 1956, and he wrote a lot of books of occult context, and that intrigued you. Obviously, we have the sun on the same place, so but obviously we have to share interest in Colin Wilson as a center part of our being. What was your impression of Colin Wilson? Did you know what he was talking about?
I thought he did at that point, yes. Now, um, yeah, I think he was on the right lines, probably a little bit cavalier in his approach.
Sure.
Um,
Well, he had to earn money for his living.
yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
he left me with a huge shopping list of
Yeah.
things to investigate. You know, the I Ching, tarot, and astrology, of course.
How about Rupert Sheldrake in your biography?
Um, I've, I mean, I've seen Sheldrake talk once. He came to the Sophia Centre, and
Oh, okay.
I've
How?
read a
Oh,
number
you
of
have
things
met
on.
him. You have met him personally on a lecture.
I mean, yes, but only to shake hands and say
Oh, okay.
thanks for the
No,
talk.
no private talk.
No, no, but
What's your opinion on Rupert Sheldrake today with all his
very
years?
high. Yeah,
Okay.
I think he's a very interesting fellow, and he's um, an honest scientist.
But one who has his recent researches on spirituality in everyday life. Do you follow him on that path as well?
I'm not up to date with him, I'm afraid,
Okay,
so I can't
good.
really.
Back to your friend. What happened after your general being on the same page with Eastern philosophies? What happened next with him and you?
I mean, he dropped out of university, so I
Okay.
didn't see so much of him for a couple of years, but we stayed in touch.
Okay. Okay. So back to you. You were finished major philosophy, minor history. You have the certificate. What did you think when you got the certificate in your hands? What was your thinking at the day?
Um, it was extremely nebulous. I had no kind of plan for what I was going to do with the rest of my life, and I do remember being astonished and dismayed when my university friends were going for job interviews. I had this ill-formed idea that we would somehow all go off into some kind of spiritual community and live an alternative existence that would somehow also
Some
involve drinking a
something
lot of beer.
something like a commune.
Yeah.
And you were the only one interested in that.
That, as I discovered,
Okay.
to my dismay.
Why didn't you search? Well, in those days, communes were all over the world. You could have gone to India into an ashram. You could have gone to Germany. There were a lot of communes on the countryside, and there were communes in Great Britain.
Mm.
But you decided not to join them. You wanted a commune with your friends of university, and that didn't work out. So you were a one-man commune, and and you and you didn't want to join another commune which already existed somewhere in Scotland or in Wales or in Kent or someplace nice. You didn't want to try that.
I mean, I did visit a Buddhist commune
Oh, okay.
and thought this looks like hard work.
Well, it is. A
Yeah,
commune living is not easy going. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So not
it was not a thought through
okay. No
thing on my
commune. No,
part at all.
no other commune. Just the one-man commune yourself. What happens next?
Um, I go and live in Bath for a few years.
Well, what do you mean by that? Without a job, there's no living.
Yeah, I moved to Bath because it seemed like an interesting place, and also my friend Rob was living there at this point.
Oh, so you met your friend
So
again then?
yeah, so we
Which,
hooked up
which,
then.
okay, let's get the timeline correct. When did you finish university? In what year?
1976.
And when did you move to Bath?
Um, Also 1976.
Okay, and there was
Yeah,
no job in between, just jobless and then Bath.
yeah. My sort of home life was sort of a hell state for me, so I
Okay.
sort of didn't want to spend more time there than I had to. So I, moved to the first place that presented itself.
1976, what happened in Bath?
Um, I I got a crummy bedsit, which I hated, and got a job washing cars, which I also hated. Um, and then after a while, I got a job which was more suitable, which was looking after um, older people in retirement homes,
Okay,
um, and that was not ideal in that it was quite hard work, but at the
okay,
same time, it allowed me to um, have a lot of free time where I could
okay.
read books and so on.
What did you read in those days?
Um, I was reading books on astrology. I started learning astrology in 76 or 77,
Okay.
but self-taught at that point.
Yes, okay.
And then I didn't get a, what you would call a proper job really until 1980 when I applied for a job with the Gyro Bank in Liverpool,
Okay.
which was a sort of a prototype national bank. And
And how
they
long,
were t-
when was that? What year are we now in?
that was 1980. I actually moved to Liverpool.
Okay, now you're a banker. I'm a banker myself. Well, I was apprentice for banking because before I
Mm,
studied law. So we have common, well, you son, so we have to
mm.
have something in common. So in Liverpool, the banking, how long did you do banking?
I did that until 1984. Um,
Okay.
and
Why
that
did why,
was
why did you leave it?
um, I was drinking excessively, and eventually that the attractions of that lifestyle started to fade, and I began to think it was perhaps time that I did something about all these spiritual aspirations I'd harbored.
Okay,
And so I went to a meditation retreat.
that is an interesting aspect of your life. Did it go as far that you became an alcoholic, drinking
Um,
heavily?
I mean, I suffered very badly when I stopped drinking.
Okay, so it was before the alcoholic state because you can still drink a glass of wine today.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
good.
I can.
Now that the retreat, what retreat came along? Where did you go?
I went to a meditation retreat that was being run by the Orkana Trust in Bradford on Avon, where my pal Rob had become an assistant and teacher.
Was that a Buddhist retreat?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I believe I have read you became a Theravada. Is it correct pronounced?
Theravadan.
Theravada?
Theravadan.
Theravadan Buddhist. There are different, because of my studies with religious science in Leibniz University for 12 semester, there is a lot of different Buddhist orientations, and Theravada is just one of them. What is the specific approach of the Theravada Buddhist?
The Theravadins are um, they portray themselves as being the first, and
Oh,
this
okay.
might be correct, but the history is kind of vague, so it's difficult to be sure. And it's relatively austere, I would say. It's though I heard a theory that the after after Buddhism had been going along for a certain amount of time in the Theravadan vein, some of the senior monks became concerned that people were joining Buddhism just working for their own enlightenment and then not teaching, not doing anything useful for the world. And so you have the development of Mahayana, which and subsequently Vajrayana, which place much more emphasis on doing care for others.
And that led to being you in a monastery which was founded by these people from the retreat, right?
Yeah.
And there you were from 1986?
1986, and I left January 93.
You became a monk for the time period 1986 to 9. How was everyday life in your monastery? And this was a monastery not in India or in some place wide out where nobody else was. It was right in the town, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
What town?
About
What town was that?
in Bradford on Avon.
In
The
Bradford
place
on
is
Avon, there was in the middle of the town there was a monastery. Did it have walls around it that it was secluded, or was it just a building in the town?
um, it's just a building in the town on a very busy road, and if you drove past it, you wouldn't know that there was anything going on in there.
And that monastery was on how many stories? How high was the building?
It's quite a big building. It was a school building originally.
A school building, and it was, and only the monks were living there, nobody else.
The well, the monks were living in the house next door. The place expanded quite quickly. So after the meditation center, the former school had been bought, a lot of donations came in, and so the people running it were able to buy the house next door and then the house next door to that to serve as a male monastery and a female monastery.
Quite a large operation.
Yeah.
How much corruption in the monastery? Nothing, or was there problems?
Uh, no real corruption, I feel.
Okay, okay.
No,
Because
no.
money, this large sum of monies sometimes corrupts people. So you have the experience that this situation was a white situation, no bad influences, no bad inner energies. How about your personal experience? Was it all the time a good high energy level which fulfilled your needs, or did you have doubts, no doubts, doubts, no doubts? How about that?
Hmm. Um, for the first 2 years, let's say, it was very positive. It was, you know, hard, hard work to adjust to living without music and beer, if I can put it that way, and TV.
And what, what
But
what else was the everyday life? 2 years, the first 2 years. I have been a member of the Rosicrucian Order for 22 years, so I have some idea what can be done. Was it silence all the day, vegetarian food or vegan food? Was it the same clothing for everybody and nothing else? Was it meditation sessions, Zen meditation, or other meditation sessions? How about being silent a week, or what did you experience there?
the daily routine was you'd get up about 6:30, and then there would be 4 hour-long sessions of meditation in the morning, and the rule of silence.
Silent meditation?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and
okay.
sort of vipassana meditation
Oh,
primarily.
Vipassana. Okay,
Yeah.
Vipassana can be Googled and I know what it is. Okay, and the rest of the day?
Then lunch, and after lunch, the rule of silence would end, and we would work in the afternoons. I was in the first 2 years. I was given mostly gardening work
Okay.
because the teachers said that I needed to make contact with the earth, and that I was,
Okay.
floated.
The missing earth of your horoscope was to be supplemented.
Yes, I
Okay.
wasn't able to escape it.
Was it a monastery garden like in the old days in the 1200s, a typical monastery garden with all the wild herbs and all that, or was it something else?
Um, it's a very lovely garden. Yeah, and again, you wouldn't have any idea that it was there if you
Okay.
just passed the place from the roadside.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a Japanese garden for walking meditation,
Okay.
and yeah, quite a lovely place.
And then supper?
Yep. Then supper was communal, and still the rule of silence was not in operation, so we could talk amongst ourselves, and that was the main social interaction of the day.
And the food rules, was it strictly vegan or vegetarian or ovo-lacto vegetarian, or was meat included?
Meat was included. In fact, I'd been a vegetarian when I
Oh,
went the first time, and I was told that if I wanted to continue going, I'd need to eat some meat.
strange
And it,
approach, because meat is considered in esoteric circles who know what they're talking about as hindering spiritual development. How do you see that?
um,
The opinion is in the world that meat consumption has, well, even karmic problems. How do you see the consumption of meat on a spiritual path?
well, I can only go by my own experience, and I'd become vegetarian thinking that it was a more spiritual option, and I didn't notice any change.
Okay.
In Buddhist terms, they're in the Pali Canon, which is the kind of collection of scriptures of the Theravadins. Um, the it was put to the Buddha that he should allow people to be vegetarian, monks and nuns to be
Yes.
vegetarian.
Yes.
Um, and he refused to allow it. His rationale being that it would be good to um, for monks to just accept what they're given um, by people who want to give to them. And then there's a a Buddhist analysis of what killing is, and this arrives at the conclusion that to eat meat is not to kill, and it's killing that is to be avoided.
In these 2 years, the first 2 years, did you go out to get donations with a bowl to put something into it?
No, no, thankfully we didn't have to do the begging round.
Okay.
Um,
Year three and probably four, something changed. What changed?
um, well, Jackie, my who was the teachers when I started were a married couple, Jackie and Alan, and Jackie died, and that
Oh, okay.
was, if memory serves, that was pretty much exactly when Pluto transited over my natal Venus,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and at that point, those of us who were sort of established had to start teaching. So I did that, and um, the teaching became more formal, I would say.
What do you
And
mean? What do you mean by formal in comparison to Jackie's approach?
um, it's difficult to quantify in a way. Jackie's approach was much more personal and adapted to the individual. Like, for example, one time when I was working on something, I got talking to a fellow who was in the computer programming industry, and I'd done some computer programming before going in, and so I was thinking about the career possibilities in programming for me when I left the monastery. And after I'd done this for a minute, Jackie barged into the room and just shouted at me, "What are you thinking about now?" So she kind of picked up that I was not in the moment and thinking about leaving. Whereas Alan's approach was much more, you follow the method set down in the texts, and that's the end of it. So
And
a
that
less
was
personally engaged approach.
basically, we are talking about 4 years out of 6, where you more and more and more got to the idea of leaving, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoyed the feeling of helping people and teaching, and so I probably stayed on rather longer than I needed to. But
Okay.
in the end, the feeling was overwhelming that I was treading water and not learning anything. And so what was the point of being there?
Okay. You left the monastery, and if people want to know what you were doing after the monastery, they can read the 2 interviews and they can read your book, because there's something in there in the afterword. Then you did the book, remembering this wonderful book, Astrology in the Year Zero, 33 interviews, and that finished in 2000. And then you had to decide what to do with your life after that. In the meantime, you got a job in computer programming, right?
Uh, I got a job with a computer company, but it was more managing the company. I never really used my programming skills.
And you are still with that company, right?
No, I've retired now.
Oh,
Um,
now today you are. When did you retire?
um,
Recently.
yeah, I mean, I retired from Churchill Software and Churchill Offshore, which were the software companies, um, around 10, 15 years ago now, I guess.
Oh, that's already long ago. Okay.
But in the meantime, I'd started working for a company called Sounds Right, which was the business of which was teaching school teachers how to teach children to read.
And you are still with them?
I've retired from that job now as well. Um,
With now, you mean recently or 10 years ago?
no, I retired from that job a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And again, that was a
Yeah,
kind
okay.
of running the office
So
sort of job.
basically, since 2000, you had jobs up till, let's say, 2022, something like that. This was full-time and later part-time. And then something happened in Bath Spa College, right? And not in Bath University, which is, tell me the difference between Bath University and Bath Spa College. What's the difference?
Um, Bath Spa University. No, sorry, I'll start again. Bath University has been long established as a university. Bath Spa University was formerly a teacher training college, and it
Right, it was
kind
a
of
teacher training, Pädagogische Hochschule in Deutsch, in German. Pädagogische Hochschule Teacher Training College. That was Bath Spa. Okay.
yeah, and then it gradually sort of upgraded and eventually attained university status.
And then money fell from the heaven, right? Can you tell the story about how the money fell from the heaven?
uh, into the Sophia Centre.
Oh, cool, of course.
There was an anonymous benefactress who wanted to.
Is it anonymous to you personally? You don't even you personally don't know it,
I have heard the name of the person, yes,
but you
but
are not allowed to talk about it.
well, I'm being cautious. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I'm aware that
Are
they
you
do.
allowed to say, was it a female like in Amsterdam for Walter Hanegraaff, which was a female donating the chair for Hermeticism, history, and related currents? How about in your case? Was it a female donator or a male donator?
I couldn't possibly comment.
Oh, even that. Okay. Do you know what we are talking about? 20 million pounds or 2 million pounds? What's the dimension?
Um, More, I would. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Is the simple answer, but I would imagine closer to 2 than 20.
2 million pounds, something around that. And then Nick Campion got a hold of that money. Was he in a relationship with the donator, or did they just choose him to administer this money to do something for astrology in academia? That's basically the approach of this money. Do something for astrology in academia. To establish astrology in academia. And Bar Spa College accepted this proposal by Nick Campion, and they established in 2002 an academic course. Was it already culture and cosmology?
Cultural astronomy and astrology. Yeah, that's the
Let's
wrapper that's been put around it.
Yeah, let's get the viewers some impression of what that is. Okay, astrology is still about the Sophia Center. Okay, you can find the Sophia project for the cosmology in culture, something like that.
Hmm.
And today it's in Lampeter, Trinity St. David, Wales University, but it started in Bar Spa because the University of Bar Spa was interested to have that touch them on the money. University always want to have the money. They very seldom accept what you want to teach there. How did you, and you have been in that context, how did you get into that surroundings? How did that happen?
Um, I knew through sort of astrological circles that the the project was starting and that there was going to be an opening meeting. So I went to the opening meeting and then started sitting in on the meetings of the MA course. Um, and my astrology in the year zero was one of the course books. And because of that, I was able to go straight to doing a PhD, even though I didn't have an MA.
With the book Zero was equivalent for the middle for the MA, and they said go for a PhD.
Yeah.
And and then you started when with your PhD, which is this one. I put it on a book. It's print on demand by Bio de Norderstedt. It's just one volume. It's just mine. Astrology and Truth. When did you start with this theme, Astrology and Truth, and who recommended it, and who was your mentor for it?
Um, Patrick Curry deserves a lot of credit.
Uh,
Um,
so you know Patrick Curry personally.
yes, yes, I do.
Let's talk about him. He is a very important figure in the astrological academic context of astrology in academia. And then he left the field and did something else. He went to Tolkien and then mythos and things like that. But in those days, 2002, he was very relevant in the discourse of what astrology can mean in academia. How did you meet him the first time?
Um, I I actually met him for the first time in gosh, maybe about 1985, something like that. So we met at an astrological gathering of some sort, and
So you met him when he was in his early stages of publishing. His first book was probably 1986, I remember. So
yeah.
how did you experience him and his approach and how happy he was with his life? And later he got so frustrated that he left the field. Do you know about that development?
Um, yeah, I know a little bit. I mean, I think he, um, I think it's not quite as dramatic as you're making it sound. You know, he still has an interest in astrology.
Yes,
Um,
he was
and
participating on the first workshop of the Ad Astra project in 2022, I believe.
mm,
He was there in the question and answer session. So he was still interested, but he left the field of research in astrological history, history of astrology, for some reasons. Do you know the reasons?
um, I think the big break was that he left the University of Kent at Canterbury.
He was
He'd been
teaching. He was teaching together with Angela Fossa and Geoffrey Cornelius there, I believe.
yes, yeah, and he didn't find the environment very congenial.
Okay. Okay,
And but
I can handle that. I think the problem in Kent was the money was there falling from the heaven again. Some other guy did make the falling. When the money stopped and they had to leave the university in 2011, but he left before that. And then Angela and Geoffrey went to Christchurch University, and it took them 3 years. Since 2014, they had again a spiritualistic course including astrology, and this has a lot to do with the book of Geoffrey Cornelius, A Moment of Astrology, Divination. We come to that in a moment. And then he changed his interest. How about yourself? You never considered teaching in Kent or in Christchurch University?
uh, I mean, I gave one or two talks at Canterbury, but I never considered, joining the teaching staff. Was never,
Was never on the
it never
table.
came up as a possibility.
So
Um,
basically, you are working on those jobs you had full-time and part-time, and then you had this dissertation theme. Now let's get back to that. How did the theme come about? Who proposed it?
it came about really because I felt there was unfinished business with the skeptics. I mean that you
Ah,
know
okay, okay.
that's probably the best way I can characterize it.
Would you say the title was your idea or somebody else said Astrology and Truth? Well,
Um,
let's see how the complete title is. Astrology and Truth: A Context in Contemporary Epistemology.
mhm.
Who came to do this type of formulation? Was it you or somebody else?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, and then hard work for quite a number of years. And then the Sophia Centre had to find a new home because the University Bar Spa was idiotic enough to let them go. And they didn't like what they were teaching, so they found a place in Lampeter, Trinidad St. David, the University of Wales. And they changed the approach. They changed from being present as a student to online courses, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And
Yeah,
you are now a tutor of this studies, and they have masters and PhDs. They don't have bachelors, I believe.
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
And you are tutor for the MAs and the PhDs, or just the MAs?
Um, the four MAs and PhDs. I mean, I'm very much a part-time tutor. I should emphasise it's other people who do the bulk of um, the teaching on courses.
Yes.
I have two specific roles really. One is that when students get to the end of the dissertation program, they have to write a dissertation on a subject of their own choosing. And there's a forum where ideas are discussed, and I'm kind of the main voice on that forum, suggesting uh, other possibilities to students and examining where their ideas might go and trying to arrive at something that's going to work, which I think is one of the few situations in life where my Sun Mercury Sag third house, uh, Chris, he's great. Yeah.
This is a
Um,
video with me with Chris Mission, who is a tutor as well, and he's doing the same thing like you
mm,
are doing. And you will do this for the future as well.
yes, I mean I'm of retiring age now, but it's something I'm planning to keep going for a little while, if all being well.
You're 72 now.
71.
71. Well, in that age, Konrad Adenauer became Chancellor of the Bundesrepublik Deutschland and was doing this for 16 years, so that's not really our argument. Okay, back to you. And now we're coming to the most intriguing part for my talk with you, which is your worldview. Because your worldview is not materialistic. Would you agree?
I would agree with that, yes.
You didn't study Plato, Plotinus, Porphyrius, Iamblichus, and Proclus. Did that change after university?
Yes, I've studied these people more in the last few years than I ever did
And
previously.
my personal worldview is these people. So I have it easier, and I include the angel hierarchy of Dionysius Areopagita. People can find this on my page where this is also, and this is kosmologie.vonabisw.de, and this is called Neoplatistic Astrology Theory. This is my theory, and you can read that if you want. And now we come to the worldview and the astrological theory of Garry Phillipson. Dr. Phil Garry Phillipson, what is your general worldview, cosmological worldview, and what is your astrological theory? You, not people you talk with, you.
Um, we are, um, in some mysterious way, interrelated with this cosmos in which we live. Um, that much I'm quite happy to say, and that I think is the both the reason that astrology can work and the most important message of astrology.
Okay, I leave it at that, and then we go to the special site and try to find out a little bit more about that. Okay, this starts here. This is the book. This is the film list. These are the interviews. And then how about the discourse between Universalia and Realia, the nominalismus and universalismus? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Um, please explain.
The universals are entities, cosmic entities, and the opposite position is nominalistic, that the ideas are just words, not entities. This is from the 13th century, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read about that? No, you didn't. Okay, next thing. How about the creative inaction of the sacred mystery? Anything for you which happened in your life that you got into that creative inaction of the sacred mystery? Not really. Okay, Anima
Well,
Mundi.
hold on a second.
Okay. No,
Um,
I'm just going through the whole thing, and you don't have to say anything to it because it's a lot of different subjects. I was just putting them together for further interviews to find them again. So how about that? Creative inaction of the sacred mystery. Do you do that?
how would one do that?
Well, you could use astrological magic, ritualistic astrological magic, which is a combination of evocation and transits, and on the hour of Saturn, on the day of Saturn, and when Saturn is in the highest transit to energy and it is in your horoscope, there's a lot of Saturn, and then you create a talisman, for example. Creative inaction of the sacred mystery. You create a talisman, or you choose a moment for evocation of the spirits or something like that. Creative inaction is a magical procedure.
Hmm. Now, this is interesting.
And
And
you can let me see. We come to that book. It's on this page. You see, we have a lot of things to discuss, which we are going through now. This is the book for it. I refer to Astrological Magic, Basic Rituals and Meditations by Ben Dykes and somebody else, and this is the Picatrix, translated by Christopher Warnock, a Renaissance astrologer, and Michael Queer, which is, I believe, Golden Dawn affiliated. Then you have a group of Nettesheim to do this, and then you have in German Emil Steiner, Magic with Astrology, Astrology, the genetic code of spirit and soul. So let's get back to where we started. Okay, how about your personal approach? Do you do that? Do you do astrological magic? Let's put it this way.
hmm, I think I probably should. It's been on my mind for a long time that this is something that is lacking in Western astrology. I discussed this, if memory serves, with Adrian Duncan in
Okay.
year zero. And Camilla Sutton raises the whole idea of remedial measures in Vedic
So you might do it
astrology.
in the future, but you don't do it today.
I, w- I would say that I'm not. It's not something I've developed as a practice or as a skill, but I do think that it's an important orientation that astrology needs. We tend to, in the West, it seems to me, we have this space invaders approach where you see transits coming and you try to just destroy them before they get to you, rather
Okay.
than
Okay.
doing something to channel the energy of the transit in a positive way.
Well, in Yambligus terms, you channel the energy into a talisman when the transit is there.
Yeah.
Okay, how about anima mundi, part of your worldview? The world soul, the anima mundi, which is right below the nous, the logos. Anything
Um,
in your personal worldview? Is it there or is it not there?
yeah. I believe that the universe is conscious, um, and that we can, when the conditions are right, interact with it in a well, in a hopefully in a creative way.
Any experience with Graal, Rosicrucian gnosis in the spiritual hierarchy in your biography? I have
Mm,
22 years of Rosicrucian order in my biography.
no,
No,
no.
okay, you are just on the Buddhist side. Okay. Kairos governed by nous as the highest divine manifestation in your worldview existing? Nous as directly below God.
Mm, how would we know?
Well, you have to, it's religion. I believe it.
Mm,
In comparison to you, I have an astrological religion. In context of Gustav Adolf Schöner, we come to that. I have it. Oh, let's put it this way. I have it easier than you. I know all the answers because I'm Neoplatonic. There is God. Below God is the hierarchy of nous, logos, which is the logos of the Bible. Below that is the anima mundi, and then comes all the manifestations. Then it starts with seraphim, cherubim, thrones, and then it goes down to 9 hierarchies, down to the angels, and then comes the human being. In context to our talk, this is something you don't have to answer with because you don't believe that. It's not your religion, right?
it's it's not my belief, but
Okay.
we go back, I think, to my um, lack of certainties and
Yeah,
my
okay.
tendency to
That
feel that questions are more
yeah,
real than answers.
that is exactly the difference. I have certainty on that part for
Mm,
me.
yeah,
And you are open to more questions. Let's leave it in the agnostic field a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, with
With
the
a tendency
proviso that
with a tendency to the same result, but still in the agnostic field.
mm,
Would you agree?
yeah. Um,
Okay. So next, could it be that archetypes are beyond human understanding
yes,
in your worldview?
yes, no
O-
problem there.
Okay, we have Geoffrey Cornelius. People can read his divination book. Is my impression correct that you think the same way Geoffrey Cornelius thinks that astrology is a method of divination?
Uh, um, I I probably sort of 95% aligned with
Oh,
Jeffrey's perspective
that's good enough for
on
me.
astrology.
So you are
Um,
divining when you do astrology, basically.
yeah, I'd not want to be sort of dogmatic about this because clearly, I think this is clear that astrology isn't only divination.
Okay.
You know, there are patterns. Saturn returns come along, and people feel the effects, regardless of whether any divination is involved. So, and I mean, Jeffrey didn't want to deny any validity to scientific astrology either. So I certainly wouldn't. But I think actually that astrology does not fit well into any situation where there is an either or. It tends to straddle and overlap. So categories such as mind and body,
Okay.
it's there in both and not there in both.
You had the idea of studying religious science for a master, and when I did my studies in my doctorate thesis time, I did study religious science, and there is a German religious scholar, which is Rudolf Otto, and he was talking about the holy in religion. And there is a theory of the holy in the horoscope. Would you think that in that direction, that the horoscope contains holiness in a divine sense?
Again, I would want to know how would we know? How would we decide one way or the other?
Well, we wouldn't. We would just have to believe it.
I I don't really want to believe things.
Oh, that's
I
okay. That's okay.
yeah.
I want to know what your belief system is, and it's I don't want to believe is a part of a belief system, you know? We talked about Red Book. That's something on your list to read.
Mhm.
Rebecca Tarnas there are 4 commentary books on the Red Book, edited by Maurice Stein and Thomas Arts. And in the 4th book, there is an article by Rebecca Tarnas on the participatory imagination. I suppose since you haven't read the Red Book, this is something new for you, so we have to wait till you have read it. Let me know when you have read the Red Book, because then we can do another video. How about the Archive Journal? Do you know about it?
No, I
Okay,
don't.
this is edited by CIIS, California Institute of Integrated Studies, which is run by Richard Tarnas and other people. And they have a journal about archetypes and archive journal here. This is an angel hierarchy, because the archive are the 3rd era. It's angel, archangel, and archive, and this journal has this title, but you don't know it. Called Culture and Cosmos, you know. We don't have to talk about that. People can read it themselves. Then we have a text by Angela Voss about the astrology of Marsilio Ficino. I very highly. It's published in volume 4 of the Cosmos and Culture on the internet. How about yourself? Marsilio Ficino and Garry Phillipson. Is there a connection?
I mean, I like what Ficino was doing.
Did you read his 3rd book of his 3 books where he talks about astrology?
I've 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 never sat down and read it cover to cover.
Ah, okay.
I kind of dipped
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
This is the plague of the academic in a way, that
yeah.
you're,
That's okay.
for so long as you're working.
How about Angela Voss? Did you ever meet her personally?
Oh yeah, yes, I know
And
Angela.
she is deep into Marsilio Ficino. Did you talk with her about her conviction and worldview and cosmology and personal view of Ficino, Marsilio Ficino?
Um, Not specifically, no. We've met various times and
Ah, okay, okay,
talked, but
interesting.
never in that kind of depth.
Well, she is the reference for anybody who wants to know. In this article, you can learn about her conviction. Here's Patrick Curry. There
Mhm.
is another article. Then, did you read? Well, you might not have, because you haven't read the book, so it's no use of reading Liz Green about the Red Book. Have you? No, you might have not known this book because the archetypes of the CIS is not your cup of tea up till now. It might change. Here we come to the
Oh, I do have that book. It's
Oh, you have
on
it.
my shelf, waiting to be read.
Okay. Then let me know when you have read it. We can do it. We can do a second YouTube video for yourself because this will be the first YouTube video at all in the world with Garry Phillipson. You might not know Gustav Adolf Schöner. He had a habilitation, which is on top. It's higher than the PhD level dissertation. This is Habilitationsschrift in Germany. You have to have something like that to become a full professor, and it's in German and it's in English now. You have never met him, I suppose, on a conference. He
No.
was in England on the Sophia Centre conferences once.
Hmm.
You haven't met him, but you might read. You might like to read his Habilitationsschrift, which is now in English,
Hmm.
Astrology in European Religious History, its philosophical foundations through the ages. And basically, he says, let me read that to you, on page 219 of the German edition, the structure of astrology is composed of two elements, the analog correlation and the divine aspect of the cosmos. Both structural elements come to the result of being integrated in each other and creating a religious worldview of astrology. So, considering that you don't like to believe things, you might still like to read his book.
That does sound very interesting. Yes,
And
I
you
agree.
might, because this is only in German, Peter Niehenke in 1986 did write a PhD dissertation on critical astrology, proving that statistical approach is rubbish. It might have kept you away from talking to the skeptics if you would have known that book. That's for the German readers. And now there is a German information about the first astrological research day, which was organized by me with Peter Niehenke, but it's only in German, and there's a lot of German here. This is done by me, Apokryphene Astrologie, which is for free, but it's unfortunately only 680 pages in German. And then now we come to something in English. Michael Polanyi's Tacit Knowing.
Hmm.
I came about this on the first Astra Project workshop with the talk of Professor Dr. Stefan Hein from Osnabrück in English. It's this video, and this is done by Luis Ribeiro. This workshop was organized by Luis Ribeiro. This is the rubbish advertising on YouTube. Okay, people are invited to listen to Stefan Heilen, who is referencing Michael Polanyi's concept of tacit knowing, its
Mhm.
relevance to the practice and study of astrology. Do you know about this work? Tacit knowledge of Polanyi?
I know about Polanyi. Yeah.
And do you agree with this tacit knowledge theory?
Yes. Yeah. I've no problem with that. I think it's in my thesis. If it isn't, it should be.
Okay, so people can read themselves in English. Is this in English? This is a German version, but it's in English available. Implicit knowledge. And then here is a text by Dr. Phil David Just, and it's called Reading Birth Horoscopes in the Middle Ages, Latin Judgments on Nativities, if somebody wants to know how the Renaissance astrologers were working. Here we have the Astrology and Magic. Then we have the Picatrix, which is a rather famous book. This is in German, Agrippa of Nettesheim. It's available in English. The Occulta Philosophia of Nettesheim is translated into English. Did you ever read it?
No. No.
Well, you should probably, because it's the magic foundation for astrological magic, and it's available in English. I think it was Warnock again who was no, it was somebody else translated. If you go to the Chris Brennan podcast
Mm.
and you're looking for Nettesheim, you find a long video with the translator of Nettesheim. We have a lot of film lists about the grimoires. If you want to dive into magic, there is Astrology and Magic by Chris Brennan, and there's Picatrix Grimoire. Well, it's a lot of information which you probably wouldn't know to talk about, right? Because you don't have not read those picker tricks and Nettesheim and grimoires and all that. This magic part of astrology is something for the future for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we can continue with my prepared site. This is a lot of grimoires. You can see that I'm very interesting. This is my worldview. You can read that for yourself, which is Neoplatonic. And it's in this book. Do you know this book by Helena Avila and Luis Ribeiro? The
Oh, I
traditional.
know of it. I haven't read it.
There is my philosophy is in that book as well. So you
Hmm.
can. Have you ever thought about reading Philosophy of Entheurgy by Algis Uzdavinis? No answer what that is. Is Theo okay? Theo Jamblichus, and
Yeah,
his
that book I know. Yeah,
you know that, but
yeah.
you didn't read it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I read it. Yeah.
How's your impression about on this book? What's your opinion on this book?
Very good. Yeah.
It didn't create a change in your lifestyle and worldview still, because if I read that book, it confirms my worldview. You have read it, and it didn't change you from what you believed before to what you believe now. You're still the same before reading the book and reading after the book, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. We
Um,
are different in that aspect, obviously. Okay,
yeah. I
people
mean,
can read it.
maybe we're looking at Neptune being in my first house or something like that. But
Yeah, probably.
I'm I I'm kind of open to the idea that there are different ways of dividing the cosmos up.
Yeah.
Um, and there are some essentials such as sort of it being meaningful and
In my view, what you are saying is your worldview needs more work than my worldview.
okay.
You have to do a lot of more work than I have to do because I just read the book. Okay, that's right. That's what I am. Basically, Jamblichus, get the energy and the rituals and talk to the gods. You don't talk to gods,
Or do I?
or do you?
Hmm.
Well, I give you an example. Becca Tarnas did do sessions with Stan Groff and her father, and she took those shamanic drugs, and she met the gods. She met Pluto. She met Uranus. She met Mars. She met as personalities. I assume you never took those drugs and you never had this personal experience like J.G. Jung in his Red Book, that you had a direct personal contact with archetypes as a personality. Am I
Um,
right that you didn't do? Well, you met ghosts.
yes, and I have taken psychedelics, and they've I've had very pleasant experiences on them, but
Okay.
um, not kind of experiences that lead to specific stories where
Okay. Yeah.
there's me meeting another entity.
And why did you stop taking them?
Availability issues, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are still available in this shamanic context.
Mm.
Okay, let's continue. How about your study in traditional literature, history of astrology? I took this famous book translated by Charles Burnett and Yamamoto from Japan, The Great Introduction to Astrology by Abu Mashar. How far did you dive into the situation that since 2010-11, a lot of books came on the market, translations of old texts, Arabic texts, Hellenistic texts, and even older. Did you, this started with Project Hindsight, sort of, when you came back from the monastery. You have certainly recognized that something was going on. But the real tsunami of books came in the 2010s and following. If you go to Ben Dyke's homepage, you have about this sort of books in my shelf. by Ben Dykes, only translations of Mashallah and Abu Mashar and Al-Kindi and all those people, and Dorotheus and Hermann from Corinthia. How about yourself? Did you dive into this academic approach of translating historical texts in astrology? And they are now available. And the Hellenistic astrology of Chris Brennan is available since 2014. And Demetra George has two thick books about traditional astrology in the Hellenistic area and all that. And then Shlomo Sela translated all the Abraham Ibn Ezra books from Hebrew into English. What about yourself? What did you read of this tsunami of new books?
I did read Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology,
Okay.
and I've kind of scavenged a lot of the Ben Dykes translations.
Okay. Okay.
You know, and this is the trouble with the academic approach. I think I've kind of dived in to find issues that were relevant for my thesis primarily. I've not sat down and read the books cover to cover.
Well, your thesis is now published.
Mm.
6 years later, you could do it now.
Yeah,
Is
I
is
could
there
in
is there is
theory.
there an, is there an intrinsic motivation that you want very much so? I have to do this, or would you say, well, if I don't read it, not bad for me either. How's your?
I'm I lean more towards the latter position.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
that's
you
quite all
know,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just I'm the interviewer. I'm just curious, and you are perfect. You are a perfect interviewee. Do you realize that now?
Well, it's kind of you to say so.
Oh, I come back to that later. Now we have The Cosmic Game by Stan Groff. Did you read that?
Let's think. That one, no, I've not read
Okay,
that.
how about the recent book about Stan Groff for his 90th birthday, Psyche Unbound? Did you read that?
No.
Okay. You have not read, this is German, this is this Vertical Worldview, Rüdiger Dahlke, The Life Principles. And then here we have Shlomo Sela. Did you read any of Shlomo Sela's translations? Not really.
No, I might have read one or two things, but I don't
Okay.
remember.
How about The Daimon by Dorian Giesler Greenbaum?
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
do
you
know.
read that? Oh,
I
that's.
know Dorian, and I have read that. Yeah,
How about what did you think about it?
yeah, all good.
Did it change your worldview that you realize that you have a personal daimon?
No,
Okay,
um,
say,
because I see it as a way of thinking.
well, you might be mistaken because I'm convinced with my belief system that I have a personal daimon. It was elating that this book came about. It was so
Mm.
great to read the background of what I believe in. Guido Bonatti, anything read of Bonatti? This is just an example of a lot of books from Bonatti.
Oh yeah, Bernati I've dipped into. I
Okay,
have some of his works, but usual thing. I've read it
okay.
as an academic inquiring into how astrologers approach their subject rather than looking to refine my approach to
Yeah.
horoscopic work.
Now, coming to your approach to horoscopic work. In the interviews, you talked about how you got trained in the faculty of astrology in England, and then you learned the psychological astrology. What else did you learn outside of psychological astrology?
I did John Frawley's course in horary.
Did you practice horary?
Yeah,
Well, you have a problem to explain why it works. How do you explain why horary works?
uh, because the I'm not entirely detached from the cosmos, and um, when it's right for something to be known, um, the cosmos provides a way.
What is the cosmos when you say the cosmos? I have my
Uh,
answer, but you have a specific other answer to that.
I don't have a specific answer. You see,
Ah,
I
you
would
leave that
probably say
agnostic.
something.
You say there is a living entity called cosmos, and I can't explain what it is, and I leave it agnostically there. You don't have to know what the cosmos is. It's there. Be content with it. Is that your approach?
That it is something like that, yes.
Okay, very good.
Possibly Buddhism is an influence here because in in Buddhist cosmology, the human realm is kind of halfway between, the highest heavens and the lowest hell, possibly a little similar to the cosmology you were outlining earlier. And I tend to think that this applies in matters of epistemology as well, that um, we have myths about what is real, and these myths can be useful, but they
Hmm.
aren't the absolute truth. They are perhaps the closest we can come to formulate what there is.
Okay. You have read the book by Chris Brennan, Hellenistic Astrology. Did it influence your approach how to delineate? Did you take some of the methods into your practice, or did you just read it out of curiosity and stick to psychological astrology and horary rules, and that's it? And you didn't integrate the traditional rules of Dorotheus or Manilis or Trimegus Martianus, which are referenced in the book by Chris
Hmm.
Brennan.
Yeah, more the sticking with my existing approach. Not
Okay.
that not that I don't attempt to integrate new insights, but
But
um,
it's not going as far that you practice zodiacal releasing according to Vetus Valens. You don't do that.
I don't do that. No, no.
Why not? You
Be-
could do it. It's easy.
yeah, I could. I don't do that much astrological work. Is
Well,
the
for
simple
yourself,
answer.
you could do it for yourself.
Hmm.
Being curious which level of what planet is released by zodiacal releasing by Fortune, and which is released by Daimon, and which is released by Love and by Necessity. You could do all that with AstroSeek provides that. You could, it's not on the Astrocom in Zurich, but AstroSeek.com, this worldwide software, gives you a direct approach to look at all those zodiacal releasing level 1, level 2, level 3, and level what's it happening this week out of curiosity. I do that once a year, not more than that, but you don't do that, right?
I don't. I might, maybe I'll give it a go.
Ah, okay. So that would be my program, what I wanted to ask today. Did I miss something important to ask you?
Um, Reiki, let me think. We've covered so much. I can't
Yes,
think
we
of
did.
anything else. Yeah.
Okay. How about your personal future? Is there any research project going on?
My immediate future, I'm trying to write a chapter or two for a companion volume to the Moment of Astrology,
Oh, very good. Very good.
which Margaret from Wessex Astrologer has in hand.
Oh,
Um,
that's good. When will that be published?
uh, I would think not until 2007 at the
Oh,
earliest.
okay. I have to watch.
Um,
I have to watch Wessex Astrology when it's available. Okay, another project of yours you are working on?
uh, nope, that's probably it. I'm sort of I've got my university work.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sort of studying various things like I just finished Tom Holland's book Dominion,
Oh, okay.
which is a kind of an account of um, the the development of Christian faith from its origins to the present. I'm about to start this biography of Thomas Merton,
The
who
Seven
is
Mountains of Thomas Merton. Okay.
Merton is a Catholic monk who was developing an interest in Buddhist thought
Okay.
before his untimely death. So these are these are things that I read for my own interest and
Okay.
because they can be useful sometimes for the students. And I like to get out and walk quite a lot. Um,
Okay.
I think
Just
it's
walking, not running, just walking.
just walking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Which is
you live in a church, right?
yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Um, well,
It's not
there's
a church, and it's not an active church now, right?
yeah,
Oh, you live in a real church where there is sermons on Sundays?
yeah. Not in my living room,
No,
but yeah,
is your apartment high up on the tower or is it on the
yes,
side?
it is. Yeah,
You are living in the tower of a church in
right by the bell tower. Yeah.
Bradford on Avon. How large is your apartment? Normally those are close quarters.
Well, as you say, it's
How many rooms do you have in that situation?
well, we've got this here and then a bedroom and bathroom, which take up the same space again.
This is sort of a monk situation in the tower of a Christian church, right?
Yeah, and I'm living like 200 yards away from where I was a monk.
Interesting. And that means when the service starts, when is the first service on Sunday? At 8 o'clock or at 10 o'clock?
Uh, 10 o'clock, I believe.
Oh, so the bells wake you up at 10, not at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, the bells start at 8.
Oh, so
Wh-
you don't need a mechanical device to get up. You get the bells.
it is a nuisance sometimes. Yeah.
How many stairs do you have to go up to your apartment?
There are 39 steps,
Oh,
as in the John Buchan novel.
that's not that many. 39 is okay, but it's a good training for your body. Okay.
Yes, yeah, and obviously, sooner or later, my body won't be able to get me up and down those stairs very easily. So
Well, that
then I'll
depends.
need to move on.
If you live healthy, if you eat a lot of raw food, a lot of supplements in high doses, 10,000 international units of vitamin D and 500 micrograms of vitamin K2, MK7, you might live till you're 100.
Mm.
Okay. Any other hobbies?
I still dabble with music, um,
What sort?
sort of horrible electronic music.
Oh, okay. Horrible electronic. That's interesting wording for something you like. Horrible electronic. Why did you choose to word it that way? Because you love it, right? Do you want to defend yourself for the public?
No, no, I have no musical skill. It's just something that fascinates me,
Ah, okay.
and it's generally not been well received. So,
Did you ever play in a band?
not in a live situation. I was in a sort of a band in Liverpool
Oh, okay.
called Form, but that was just recording in our front rooms.
And no other hobbies than that.
Uh, no, no.
Okay. Oh, well, it's a lot. It's a lot, anyways.
Mm.
So, if you have nothing else, sh should we talk about something else which interests you?
No, I'm good to go now.
Now, let's recapitulate it. In the beginning, you said you are not a good interviewee. If you look at our talk and what you think about a good interviewee, what is your result evaluation? Are you a good interviewee?
I'm probably a bit evasive.
Not really, because I didn't let you evade. This is my problem, not to let you evade. If you answer agnostic, that is perfectly all right because that's legitimate. You know, a lot of people don't want to believe in something. They want to leave it open. It could be not. I leave it agnostic. It could be, and I'm fine with that. That is a very valid philosophy, in my opinion. I couldn't live that way, but for you, it's perfect.
Yeah, a story occurs to me actually. I wanted to interview somebody who practiced astrology in the tradition of Dion Fortune, and
Okay, yeah, okay.
the Western magical tradition
Yes.
more generally. And I ended up um, talking to a guy who was with the Masons, the Masonic.
Yeah, okay.
tradition. And he said that they do these sort of meditations and prayers to the angels of the four quarters, and that sometimes they would do it to characters in Tolkien's Silmarillion. And I said, but, you know, those are fictional characters. And he said, yes, but these give you kind of ways of connecting to what's real. And that's what's important. So that's the kind of perspective I'm coming from, I guess.
Well, having been 22 years in a Rosicrucian order and experienced what a group can create, in the esoteric field, we have the term egregor. And if a lot of people, in my case, 700 people on a weekend, were building up a force field, an egregor can manifest itself. And if you look at how many people have read the Silmarillion, millions, and some of them, not very few, a lot of them connect to that figure in the Silmarillion. They can create an egregor. And if it continues that they contact this, I believe in you, I find you wonderful and all that, you know, this approach to see the figure as a reality, not as a fiction. The next step would be that the egregor changes into an archetype. And if enough people support this archetypal approach, you have an archetypal entity. And then you have jumped out of fiction into reality. So in my view, these people who do that, they might not know that there is a theory behind what I just tried to elaborate. But the theory is there, and my experience confirms it, because I experienced this with these people, 700 people every 2 weeks in Bad Münder. So if you are in a group, and these Tolkien people are sort of an international worldwide group, disciples of Tolkien, let's put it this way. And when I will talk to Beckatanas about the red books of those two authors, we will talk about that. So I will conclude with that information. Please view the talk with Beckatanas on the 8th of July. And to Dr. Garry Phillipson, for the viewers, thank you very much that you took your time. For me personally, thank you very much for doing this. The first and only YouTube and BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey video in the world. So whenever you want to do another video, let me know, because as soon as you have read the red book, or have read some magical books, or have done some ritual, we have something to talk about, because then you can talk about experience.
Great.
Okay, so I'll stop the recording.
Okay, pleasure talking to you, sir.
It was very much pleasure. Thank you very much. I'll try to stop the recording. I'll do this here.